So apparently we're in Greenland mode now. Did you hear this, President Zelensky? Bless his heart, the man is trying to keep a war effort alive while half of Europe is figuring out how to burn wood pellets for heat. He comes out and says the world is stuck in Greenland mode. He's slamming global inaction. He's saying, hey, I've got hypersonic missiles flying over Kyiv, and you guys are haggling over the price per acre of a glacier, and you know what? He's right. But not in the way he thinks he is. The media is losing its collective mind. You open the New York Times, you turn on the tube, and it's breathless hysteria. Trump trade chaos. Greenland purchase escalates. Cold War Europe in shock. They act like Donald Trump just walked into the Louvre and tried to buy the Mona Lisa to use as a placemat. But let's pause. Let's take a breath of that freezing cold Arctic air. Why are we talking about buying an island the size of Mexico while the Middle East is simmering and the Eurozone is stagnating? Because for the first time in 4 years, the West is finally playing offense. Zelensky calls it a distraction. The Times calls it chaos. I call it real estate mode. And frankly, ladies and gentlemen, it is about damn time we stop renting our national security from people who hate us and started owning the deed. Let's get into the meat of this. The Greenland framework. If you listen to the talking heads in Brussels or the op-ed columnists who haven't left Manhattan since 2019, they are selling you the official lie. The lie goes like this. This is a vanity project. It's colonialism too. It's a dangerous disruption of the delicate international norms that have kept us all so safe and warm. They want you to believe that Trump woke up, saw a map, thought that looks big, and decided to bully poor defenseless Denmark just to get his name on a hotel and nuke. That's the fairy tale. That's the bedtime story they tell you so you go back to sleep. Here is the real truth. This isn't about ice. It's not about buying a retirement home for polar bears. This is about resource realism. We are living in a world where the components for your phone, your electric car, your fighter jets, and your MRI machines are controlled by a hostile power. China has a stranglehold on rare earth elements. And where is one of the largest untapped deposits of these minerals sitting under the ice in Greenland? For decades, we've watched China play the long game. They buy ports in Africa. They buy infrastructure in South America. They buy the literal ground beneath our feet while our leaders are busy arguing about gender-neutral pronouns and military manuals. But now the checkbook is out, and the establishment is terrified. Why? Because they prefer the slow suicide of bureaucracy. Look at the United Kingdom. Just look at them. While we are trying to expand our footprint, the UK is busy giving theirs away. Did you see the news about the Chagos Islands? The UK government, in its infinite post-colonial wisdom, is handing over the Chagos archipelago, including the strategic Diego Garcia base, to Mauritius. Mauritius, a country that is cozying up to Beijing faster than a teenager at a Taylor Swift concert. Think about the contrast. It is staggering. The British are handing over an unsinkable aircraft carrier in the Indian Ocean because they want to be polite. They want to follow international law. They want to feel good about themselves at the next cocktail party in Geneva. Meanwhile, Trump is looking north and saying, I'll take that. The UK is that guy who donates his car to charity to feel virtuous and then complains that he has to walk 5 miles to work in the rain. Trump is the guy buying the dealership so he never has to walk again. It is suicide by bureaucracy versus survival by acquisition. And the media calls us the crazy ones. Let me give you an analogy so simple even a New York Times editor could understand it. Imagine you live in a nice house, but your water main, the pipe that keeps you alive, runs directly through your neighbor's yard. Now your neighbor is broke, he can't pay his bills, he's putting the house up for foreclosure, and you see the local drug dealer, the guy who has been poisoning the neighborhood for years, eyeing that property. He's got a suitcase full of cash. If he buys that house, he controls your water. He controls your life. The establishment approach is to send the neighbor a fruit basket and hope he doesn't sell to the bad guy. They want to write a sternly worded letter to the drug dealer. The Trump approach, you walk over there, you slap a check on the table that is so big the neighbor can't refuse, and you buy the damn house. Is it aggressive? Yes. Is it disruptive? You bet your ass it is. But guess what? The drug dealer doesn't get the house, and your water stays on. That is what's happening in the Arctic. The ice is melting, the trade routes are opening up, and the resources are sitting there for the taking. The Russians are already there. The Chinese are calling themselves a near-Arctic state, which is geography math that only makes sense if you're a communist. Denmark cannot defend Greenland. They can barely defend Copenhagen. The European Union is stuck in green mode, fantasizing about windmills while the rest of the world burns coal to build tanks. So when they scream colonialism, translate that in your head. What they are really screaming is relevance. They are screaming because they are being bypassed. The United States is securing the perimeter of the North American continent, and we aren't asking for permission from a UN subcommittee before we do it. They say Greenland isn't for sale. Let me tell you something about the real world. Everything is for sale if the alternative is becoming a Chinese parking lot. So let Zelensky complain about Greenland mode. He's fighting a war for land in the mud. We're fighting a war for the future on the ice, and I'd rather be the guy holding the deed than the guy begging for ammo. You think this is just about islands. You think this is just about snow and sand. If you think that you are missing the signal and the noise, what we are witnessing with Greenland and the hysterical reaction to it is not an isolated incident. It is the shattering of a pattern that has defined your life for the last 30 years. We need to talk about the business model of the West. For the last 3 decades, the people in charge, the ones currently hyperventilating in Davos, have been running Western civilization like a private equity firm stripping a company for parts. Their strategy has been simple: manage decline. They sold off our manufacturing base because it was cheaper to make things in Shenzhen. They shut down our nuclear and coal plants because it was cleaner to buy solar panels made in China using slave labor. They hollowed out our military supply chains because just-in-time logistics looked better on a quarterly spreadsheet. The pattern is always the same: outsource the hard stuff, rent the necessities, pretend it's progress. It is the "you will own nothing and be happy" doctrine applied to geopolitics, and look where it got us. It got us to a point where we can't print an artillery shell without asking permission from a supplier in East Asia. It got us to a point where the price of your groceries fluctuates based on the mood of a warlord in the Red Sea because we don't control our own shipping lanes anymore. This is the scam. They convinced you that interdependence would bring peace. They told you that if we just traded enough, if we just gave up enough sovereignty, the bad guys would turn into nice liberal Democrats. The Chagos Islands deal is the perfect example of this terminal brain rot. The UK is giving away strategic territory to uphold international norms. That is the pattern of decline. You apologize for winning history, and then you hand the keys to the people who want to bulldoze your house. But the Greenland move, that breaks the pattern. That is why they are screaming chaos in the New York Times. When they say chaos, they mean loss of control. When they say unprecedented, they mean we can't monetize this. Think about the inflation you've been drowning in. What is inflation really? It's the tax you pay for not owning the source. When you don't own the energy, you pay the dictator's price. When you don't own the factory, you pay the shipper's price. When you don't own the land, you pay the landlord's price. For years, our leaders have been happy to be tenants in a world built by our ancestors. They've been paying rent to history. Trump trying to buy Greenland is a rejection of the tenant mentality. It's saying, no, we are not going to pay a premium on rare earth minerals for the next century just because you guys are too polite to secure the supply chain. It is the exact opposite of what happened to the German energy sector. Look at Germany. The economic engine of Europe, they turned off their nuclear power plants to please the green lobby, the same people crying about Greenland right now. And what happened? They became dependent on Russian gas, and when that gas turned off, their industry collapsed. That is the logical endpoint of the establishment's worldview: vulnerable, expensive, powerless. Now look at the countermove. If you control the Arctic, you control the shipping lanes of the future. If you control the rare earths, you control the chip manufacturing of the future. You insulate your citizens from the blackmail of foreign powers. You export inflation instead of importing it. This is not a new idea. It's the oldest idea in the book. It's called national interest. But because we haven't seen it in action since the 1980s, it looks like madness to the people who run the State Department. They are terrified because this exposes their incompetence. If it turns out that you can just go out and secure resources for your people, then what the hell have they been doing for the last 20 years? They've been attending climate summits. They've been writing treaties that nobody reads. They've been managing the decline, ensuring that we slide into irrelevance politely and quietly. Buying Greenland is loud, it is rude, it is blunt, and it is exactly the kind of shock therapy a dying patient needs. You want to know why the world feels like it's on fire? It's not because of populism. It's because for a generation we stopped acting like a superpower and started acting like an NGO. We stopped building and started apologizing. The Chagos handover is the ghost of the old world weak apologetic retreating. The Greenland Purchase is the birth of the new world transactional aggressive realistic. They tell you this is dangerous. They tell you this will start a Cold War. Newsflash, genius, the Cold War never ended. The other side just stopped wearing uniforms and started buying our debt. We are finally waking up to the fact that we are in a fight. And in a fight, you don't give away your shield because it's heavy. You buy a bigger sword. But if you think the leaders of the free world are happy about us finding our spine, wait until you see what's happening in Davos. Because nothing scares a globalist more than a nation that remembers how to act like one. Let's take a quick tour of the asylum, shall we? Because while we are busy redrawing the map of the hemisphere, the rest of the world is busy putting on a comedy show. Look at Davos, the World Economic Forum, the annual gathering where billionaires fly in on private jets to tell you to ride a bicycle to work. The New York Times is running headlines about trade chaos and global panic. But look at what is actually happening on the ground in Switzerland. The headline says world leaders join Trump board peace agreement. Do you see the disconnect? In the opinion pages, they call him a monster. In the conference room, they are lining up to kiss the ring. They are terrified. They are desperate. They are boarding the peace agreement like it's the last chopper out of Saigon. They hate him, they fear him, and they are absolutely paralyzed without him. They're like teenagers who scream that they hate their dad, but the second the car breaks down, who's the first person they call? And speaking of paralysis, did you see the Iran moment? Trump issues a warning. Then silence, an unexpected pause. The media didn't know how to cover it. They are used to 24-hour bluster. They don't understand the power of silence. That wasn't a pause, folks. That was the room holding its breath. That was the sound of a world leader actually leading instead of reading a teleprompter written by a 24-year-old gender studies major. Then you have Zelensky. He says the world is stuck in Greenland mode. He thinks it's an insult. He thinks it means we're distracted. No, Volodymyr, we aren't distracted. We are just finished paying for a war that has no exit strategy. We are pivoting to a purchase that has an ROI. Greenland mode isn't a glitch. It's the new operating system. And if you're still running the rules-based international order software from 2005, you are going to crash. And finally, back to our friends in the UK. While we are negotiating for the Arctic, they are finalizing the paperwork to give away Diego Garcia. It is the perfect split screen of the 21st century. On the left, the Old West, politely handing over its sword to the enemy. On the right, the New West, buying the mountain where the iron is mined. One of these strategies survives the winter. The other one freezes to death in the dark. So what happens next? I'm going to give you a warning, not a prediction, a warning. The noise is going to get louder. The official lie is going to get more hysterical. You are going to hear words like illegal, unprecedented, and dangerous every single hour of every single day. They will try to make you feel ashamed. They will try to tell you that buying Greenland is imperialism, but relying on China for your antibiotics is globalism. Do not listen to them. We are moving from a world of international norms that gave us open borders, deindustrialization, and forever wars, to a world of sovereign transactions. The masquerade ball is over. The masks are coming off. There are no more allies based on sentiment. There are only partners based on interest. There are no more global communities. There are only nations that own their future and nations that rent it. The Greenland deal isn't just about ice. It is a signal. It is a signal that the fire sale is over. The United States is no longer the world's ATM. We are the world's landlord. So let them cry about the map. Let them scream about the chaos. Chaos is a ladder. And for the first time in a long time, we are the ones climbing it. Ignore the headlines. Watch the shipping lanes. Watch the resources. Watch the money. Let them have their Davos cocktail parties. We'll take the land under the ice. This is Claus Kellerman. Keep your eyes on the map.